I just stumbled on an XRP clue so wild that it kept me up last night. And it all starts with a number, 4%. And if I'm right, it could change everything for XRP's price. So here's the scene. I'm sipping on my late night coffee, scrolling through crypto news when I see 𝗕𝗓𝗄𝗧 XRP ETF, ticker XRPR, just launched with a bang. We're talking $37.7 million in trading volume on day one. This is the biggest ETF debut of the entire year. Now that yanked me right out of my drowsiness. One ETF, one day, pulling nearly $38 million. Immediately, my mind is racing. Because if one ETF can attract that kind of cash on launch, imagine what happens if a bunch of them go live. And guess what? More XRP ETFs are lined up. Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, Wisdom Tree, 21 Shares, some heavy hitters, are all waiting for approval, possibly as soon as October. So it's like we're on the cusp of an ETF flood. And I'm wondering, how deep could that flood get? So I hopped into our free educational Discord server. The link, by the way, is in the description. It's totally free, so you can come and hang out if you want to. And I say, guys, what happens if these XRP ETFs start gobbling up supply? Are we talking a little kind of ripple, or is it a tidal wave? Almost instantly, the chat becomes alive. One member shares a report from CryptoQuant's research head, 𝗕𝗓𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘, and this is kind of where that 4% really comes in. Now, Monero basically eliminates that XRP, or at least estimates, I should say, that XRP ETFs could absorb anywhere between 1 and 4% of XRP's entire circulating supply in the first year. 4% of XRP. I had to double check that because it sounds small until you realize that actually, when you do the math, it's not. Now, currently, 59.8 billion XRP is out there, so 4% of that is, drumroll, roughly 2.39 billion XRP tokens. 2.39 billion. Now, even at around a $1 price tag per XRP, that is significant. But let's be real, if ETF mania really does kick in, price likely won't stay at $1. We haven't even been at $1 for a while. We're kind of just below that $3 level at the point of recording, right? So, what does that mean if we are to kind of take that as our valuation? Well, $7.17 billion of demand, $7 billion of new money potentially trying to grab XRP. I nearly spat out my coffee at that number. Now, I've been around the block in crypto, but I still had to ask, what on earth happens when $7 billion tries to squeeze into a limited asset? Well, it's basic supply and demand, but on steroids. So picture a packed concert where only a few tickets are left. The price for those tickets can shoot up because everyone is scrambling to buy and there's just not enough to go around. Well, XRP could be those hot tickets, right? If ETFs really do scoop up 2+ billion XRP, well, that's 2+ billion fewer tokens circulating in the wild. Now, if sellers don't step up to meet that demand, well, we've got a classic supply shock. Now, buyers would be fighting over fewer XRP tokens, driving the price even higher. Now, I'm talking potentially much higher because people won't calmly kind of bid. They'll actually FOMO bid. So think Black Friday madness, but for crypto. Fewer goods on the shelf, crowds of shoppers with cash in hand. Now, at this point, I kind of felt my inner trader waking up. My hands were literally itching to hit that buy button. I opened up my phone, I checked my bbloefin exchange. That's one of the platforms that I use. There is, of course, an affiliate link in the description that supports the channel. And I started I started loading up the XRP chart. And I had this kind of impulse to kind of market buy a whole bag of XRP right there in that second. But hey, I also remembered that times that I've kind of been burned by all the hype before. So I took a deep breath and started digging for more insights. $7 billion in potential inflows was just too huge to act on without actually verifying everything twice. So I looked for more clues. And it turns out JPMorgan analysts also threw their hat into the ring, predicting around $8 billion of inflows that could come if XRP spot ETFs get the green light. So when big names like JPMorgan and Franklin Templeton are eyeing something, well, you know that it's not just us retail guys speculating. This is institutional interest. Even Crypto.com's CEO and others are echoing that $8 billion figure. Now, it's kind of like all the signs are pointing to a massive wall of money possibly coming into XRP. And that got me thinking, where does that put the price? Are we talking 20% up, 100% up, more? Now, here is where things get really interesting. I needed a sanity check, or maybe I just wanted someone or something to tell me that I'm not so crazy. So I asked an AI, I basically went, hey, Google Gemini, their new AI model, by the way, what happens if 4% of XRP supply just gets locked up by these ETFs? Now, I half expected a kind of generic answer, but Gemini actually went into full analysis mode. Now, I'm imagining this AI as a kind of crypto oracle, right? Glowing circuits and all, pondering XRP's fate, and Gemini basically explained it like we kind of suspected. It's a textbook supply crunch scenario. According to the AI, if around 2.39 billion XRP gets bought up by the ETFs, that's roughly $7.2 billion of new demand flooding on in. Now, historically, when something like that happens, for example, when Bitcoin ETFs started drawing in huge inflows, the price went bananas. Now, remember, Bitcoin ran to a new all-time high even before its 2024 halving event, largely because ETF anticipation pumped in fresh money. Now, Gemini drew that parallel for XRP, basically saying that if buyers, ETFs, suddenly inhale a big chunk of the supply and regular holders don't want to sell much, well, XRP's price could explode upwards. Now, I'm just sitting there, heart is pounding as the AI continues. Then it hits me with the prediction. Now, Gemini projected a potential short-term rally of 2 to 5x from the current prices. My eyes widened, right? 2 to 5 times is pretty good, right? I had to kind of replay that in my head. Let's kind of put that into actual numbers then. If XRP is around, let's say, $3, just a hypothetical round number, I know it's fluctuating around there, then we're kind of talking about a jump of at least to somewhere between $6 and $15 XRP. Now, even if you assume XRP was the lower end and it just doubles or quadruples, well, that is still a huge leap. I actually kind of said out loud, are you kidding me, right? A $10 XRP, give or take a few bucks here or there, that kind of felt like a distant fairy tale not that long ago. And here, an AI is casually suggesting that it's actually a realistic short-term scenario. So my jaw might as well literally have dropped. Now, I've never really heard Google's AI sound so bullish on a crypto scenario before. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking this sounds too good to be true. Trust me, I thought, or at least the thought, actually crossed my own mind as well. Now, you know what matters, or what all this really does mean though, right? It's time for a reality check, and I can practically hear some of you guys loading up your exchange apps already, so listen very carefully to this because it is important. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor and nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your own responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses, and this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. All right. Breathe in, breathe out, disclaimer's done, but genuinely, be careful out there. Now, am I personally excited after hearing all of this? Heck yeah, but I'm also a bit cautious. Let's break down the other side of this coin, because there's always another side. Now, Gemini itself, right after kind of painting that $6 to $15 possibility, basically caveated it with, hey, this is speculative. In other words, best case scenario, folks. So if those ETFs indeed do pull in billions and we don't see any army of sellers, taking profits, then yeah, we might see fireworks. But real markets are pretty messy. For one, as price climbs, some holders will sell and take money off of the table. That adds supply back into the market, which can, dampen the rally. Also, there are these ETFs that won't buy everything on day one, right? It could be a steady inflow over several months. So if at any point that inflow slows down, the momentum could also stall. There's also the psychological aspect here. Imagine XRP starts creeping up into $6, $7 ranges. Well, headlines everywhere, everyone's kind of euphoric, right? That's kind of often when whales say, thanks, I'll cash out. Now, I've seen it countless times before. So while the outlook right now is one of the most optimistic that we've seen for XRP in many years, it's optimistic for a reason, because it hasn't happened yet. Optimism is not a guarantee. Now, get more kind of perspective here, I looked at what some human experts are saying, beyond our AI friend. Now, one notable take from Bitget's chief marketing officer, Jamie, which is funny because Bitget is actually one of the exchanges that I use. Yes, I do have an affiliate link for them in the description down below. Anyway, Jamie was bullish too, though a tad more conservative than the AI. He suggests that if things go well, XRP could push into the $4 to $8 range by the end of the ETF momentum. That is still massive, right? Just a kind of bit toned down from the AI's $15 upper range. And honestly, hearing $4 to $8 from a guy with a major exchange still kind of gave me goosebumps. It's like, pick your scenario. Even the low end of these projections implies a new multi-year high for XRP. Now, I have to admit something. I started this whole investigation pretty kind of skeptical, right? Now, you hear wild price targets on crypto Twitter all the time. I usually just roll my eyes. $10 XRP, yeah, sure, wake me up when that happens. But seeing these pieces come together, record-breaking ETF launches, potential billions in inflows, respected analysts and even institutions weighing in on the supply shock scenarios, plus an AI basically screaming bullish, it's got me kind of reevaluating my stance. But I'm not saying that I'm going to, maybe I'm drunk on the Kool-Aid, not just yet anyway, but I'm definitely kind of pouring myself a nice tall glass. Now, another twist in this adventure, while I was kind of juggling these thoughts, I realized that October is just around the corner, right? At least in crypto lore, October often ends up being Uptober, a bullish month. Maybe it's, superstition, but how poetic would it be if multiple XRP ETFs get approved in October and kick off Uptober's rally? And I'm not kind of planning my retirement on that notion, but it's on my mind. Also, I can't ignore the broader environment here. By 2025, crypto isn't just the Wild West that it was back in 2017. We have more regulation, for better or for worse, clearer rules on ETFs, and big players involved. This XRP ETF story isn't, happening in a vacuum here. It's actually part of a kind of, maturing market as a whole, the whole crypto market, in fact. So, what am I doing with all of this information? Well, here's the thing. I'm excited, but I'm not reckless, right? I've been gradually accumulating XRP over time, and I might continue to do so. But I won't lie to you. Knowing what I know now, I'll probably be paying close attention to my Bitget app. Remember that affiliate link that supports the channel down in the description? If you're looking for a solid exchange, check it out. Of course, you use whatever you're comfortable with. There's no pressure. Anyway, I'm going to be watching XRP's price and volume a bit like a hawk as October approaches. And if I see signs that an approval is imminent or that big money is moving in, then I might increase my position. That said, I'm also mentally prepared for setbacks. If the SEC delays an approval or some kind of curveball hits the news, then there could be another dip, maybe a buying opportunity. But it could also mean that the hype needs to cool off. Now, one thing that I'll definitely be doing is keeping the discussion going in our Discord community. I mean, this is the kind of topic that you need to hash out with others. Now, is this ETF boom going to be a game changer? Or is it another case of buy the rumor and sell the news, right? You've got 100 different opinions on that, right? And I love to see it. So it keeps me pretty sharp hearing all the different sides. So here's a shameless plug. If you're looking, at least if you're not in the Discord and you're looking to kind of be around like-minded individuals, get in there. The link is waiting for you down in the description. It's free, it's fun, and you'll probably catch me in there debating this very scenario late into the night. Now, let's zoom out for a second here. Big picture, right? XRP finally gets a narrative after years of being kind of stagnant, except for the lawsuit drama. Now, the ETF angle is giving XRP a bit of a new storyline, a potential catalyst, right? Remember, not too long ago, a lot of people were jaded. XRP was stuck. The price was flat. Other coins were stealing the spotlight. But now we have a reason to believe XRP could be gearing up for something significant. It feels like being a kid who's watched his hometown team lose season after season, and suddenly a star player is drafted. At least hope is kind of back here on the menu anyway. At the same time, I've got a voice in my head, the responsible, slightly cynical voice, saying temper your expectations. Maybe we get all the kind of ETFs approved and XRP still only moves a little bit, right? It could happen if the overall market is bearish or people kind of sell the news. Or maybe initial inflows are just 1% of the supply, not 4%, and that effect is more muted, right? It's possible that the impact is gradual and not a sudden moonshot. These scenarios I have to consider in order to stay grounded. But you know what? Even the act of considering these scenarios is rather thrilling. Now, it's kind of why I love being in crypto. One moment you're kind of bored out of your mind, and the next you're calculating how a single percentage of the supply could send your portfolio into the stratosphere. It's a roller coaster, and I am here for it. Seatbelt buckled, hopefully. So here's my plan moving forward, right? In a nutshell, watch closely, stay informed, and be ready. If the dominoes start falling, approvals, big inflows, price movements, and momentum, I want to position myself to take advantage of it. But not without the caution, of course. Now, I'm going to lean on our community for early signals and analysis. There are some eagle-eyed people in there, who often spot things way before the news actually hits. And of course, I'm going to keep sharing what I've learned, right? Because the journey is way more fun when we're all on the ride together. I have a kind of feeling that the next few weeks could be pivotal for XRP. Either we get a kind of blast off that becomes crypto legend, or we get a valuable lesson in hype versus reality. Honestly, both outcomes teach you something, and no matter what happens, I'll have a story to tell. Either how I witnessed XRP Supply Shock send it to the moon, or how I braced for a rocket that turned out to be a firecracker. Either way, I'm not going to be bored. Now, if you've made it this far, you're probably as intrigued as I am. This is the kind of crypto story that doesn't just come around very often. It's actually part finance, part technology, and part human psychology, with a sprinkle of AI futurism. Now, I'm excited, but I'm also a bit nervous. But mostly, I'm grateful to be here navigating it all with you guys. Because whether XRP doubles, quadruples, or even if it just stalls out, we're living through a genuine moment in crypto history with this ETF saga. All right, so that's my 2 cents, or rather 2 billion tokens, on the XRP ETF craze and the wild possibilities that 4% figure kind of carries. So you should stay sharp, stay safe within these investments, and remember that the disclaimer from earlier. You've got to stay connected. Now, we're going to keep each other well informed. But here's the thing. If you've enjoyed joining me on this little XRP adventure, you can do me a favor by smashing that like button and hitting subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. I'll see you in the next one.